Have you ever wondered why some people have blue eyes? Why they are less common than brown ones? It's not just about aesthetics. It's the trace of an ancient mutation that changed the appearance of humankind. Blue eyes emerged very recently in evolutionary terms. Not millions, but only a few thousand years ago. And this discovery has overturned scientists' understanding of genetics, migration, and human adaptation. Around 10,000 years ago, somewhere near the Black Sea, a rare genetic mutation occurred in a single individual. One specific gene in their DNA was switched off, and that triggered a chain reaction. This gene, known as OCA2, normally controls melanin production, the pigment responsible for skin, eye, and hair color. When OCA2 functions properly, it leads to brown or dark-colored eyes. But in this individual, the gene was disrupted. It stopped suppressing a neighboring piece of DNA called HERC2. HERC2 started interfering with OCA2's function, causing melanin production in the iris to plummet. As a result, this person's eyes became light, not gray, not green, but distinctly blue. This was the first known human in history with blue eyes. A single genetic glitch that could have gone unnoticed suddenly began to spread. Scientifically, this event is remarkable. All people alive today with blue eyes, from Scandinavians to some Middle Eastern populations, share this exact same mutation. That means every blue-eyed person on Earth descends from one single ancestor who first carried this unique change. Not from a group, not from regional variation, but from a single human. This doesn't mean that Homo sapiens never had blue eyes before. They just weren't common, and this particular mutation became dominant. Scientists believe that the carrier of the mutation might have had a selective advantage, for example, being more attractive to potential mates. This led to the spread of blue eyes, especially in Northern and Eastern Europe, where they are most prevalent today. From an evolutionary standpoint, a mutation that reduces melanin production should have been a disadvantage. Blue eyes are more sensitive to sunlight, offer less UV protection, and potentially increase the risk of damage. Yet instead of vanishing, blue eyes spread rapidly. So, why did that happen? One major hypothesis is sexual selection. People with unusual traits often stand out, especially in small, early human populations. When the number of potential partners was limited, a unique feature like light-colored eyes could attract attention. Blue eyes may have been perceived as rare, or as a sign of health or individuality. This increased the chances of reproduction and passing the trait on. Another theory involves adaptation to northern climates. In regions with limited sunlight, where blue-eyed populations emerged, reduced melanin could help the body produce more vitamin D. Less pigment meant more light penetration, which supported vitamin synthesis. This gave blue-eyed individuals a survival edge in environments with low UV exposure. In the end, a random mutation became fixed in the human gene pool. Today, hundreds of millions of people around the world have blue eyes. But if you trace it back, it all started with a single glitch, in a single body, in a single place on the map. It's often assumed that blue eyes are a trait unique to Homo sapiens, but that's not entirely accurate. While the most well-known blue eye mutation appeared around 10,000 years ago, this doesn't mean other human species, like Neanderthals, couldn't have had light eyes. DNA analysis of Neanderthal remains revealed some fascinating insights. Some individuals likely had fair skin and possibly light hair and eyes, particularly those from European and Siberian populations adapted to northern climates. In areas with less sunlight, pigment production decreases, a biological adaptation. So, it's plausible that blue or green eyes existed among Neanderthals long before the modern blue-eyed gene spread among Homo sapiens. However, in ancient humans, blue eyes may have emerged for different reasons. In Neanderthals, they could have been caused by entirely separate mutations, unrelated to the specific one found in modern people. This means their blue eyes could have evolved through a different genetic pathway, a case of convergent evolution, where similar traits appear in different species independently. This suggests blue eyes aren't an exclusive trait of Homo sapiens. Instead, they reflect a complex evolutionary process that may have occurred in various places across multiple human species. Blue eyes aren't a sign of civilization or progress. They're simply one of many adaptations born from the environment. Many assume red hair is a modern trait that arose in Homo sapiens. But DNA studies show that the gene responsible for red hair was also present in Neanderthals. In some individuals, particularly from Western Europe, scientists discovered mutations in the MC1R gene that reduced melanin production, the pigment that determines skin and hair color. As a result, Neanderthals likely had fair skin and possibly red hair. However, it's important to note that this was not the same gene variant found in modern red-haired humans. The MC1R mutations in Homo sapiens and Neanderthals appeared independently. Once again, an example of convergent evolution, where nature arrives at similar outcomes through different genetic paths. In modern humans, red hair is most common among people of Northern European descent, in Ireland, Scotland, and Scandinavia. And that mutation emerged later, after the Neanderthals had gone extinct. So, we can say that red hair appeared twice in human history. First among Neanderthals, then again in Homo sapiens. This further proves that many physical traits aren't unique or random, but predictable responses to environmental pressures. Light skin and hair help the body produce vitamin D in low sunlight, giving these traits an evolutionary advantage in northern climates and causing them to evolve independently in separate populations. When archaeologists compare Neanderthal skeletons to those of Homo sapiens, one difference stands out. Our bones are thinner and lighter. Neanderthals had massive femurs, wide shoulder joints, and thick wrists. Their skeletons seemed built for brute force, as if their daily survival depended on raw physical power. They lived in extreme conditions and endured them through strength alone. Homo sapiens took a different route. Our ancestors began using tools and technology instead of sheer muscle. Rather than dragging animal carcasses by hand, they built sleds or harnesses. Instead of engaging prey in close combat, they used spears and later arrows. Eventually, they domesticated animals, invented carts, and relied on the labor of others. All of this reduced the evolutionary pressure for heavy bones. Evolution began to favor agility and efficiency over brute endurance. There's also a biological explanation. Bone mass responds to stress. The more physically active someone is, the denser their bones become. As humans shifted to sedentary farming lifestyles, physical activity declined. Less hunting, less running, fewer dangers. Over hundreds of generations, our skeleton adapted. We became taller, but our bones grew thinner. This brought advantages. We're faster, more efficient long-distance movers, but also disadvantages. Higher risk of fractures, osteoporosis, and joint problems. So Homo sapiens became the most fragile, yet most successful species of human to ever exist. One of the key advantages of Homo sapiens wasn't strength or brain size. It was endurance. Surprisingly, our ancestors had more in common with marathon runners than bodybuilders. This may seem counterintuitive. In a prehistoric world filled with predators and danger, what use is long-distance running? The answer lies in hunting. Homo sapiens mastered a technique known as persistence hunting. Instead of taking down prey in a single blow, they would track and chase animals for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Humans have a unique set of thermoregulation features: sweat glands, long legs, elastic feet, and brain cooling systems. These allowed us to keep moving in hot conditions, while most animals would overheat. Our ancestors could shed excess heat and keep going. Research confirms this. Homo sapiens skeletons show well-developed leg and pelvic muscles, along with spinal structures suited for long treks. We're not the fastest or strongest, but we're hard to shake. Our stamina allowed us to outlast other hominins, reach distant lands, and pursue prey when others gave up after 30 minutes. From this perspective, a marathon isn't just a sport. It's a reminder of our evolutionary heritage. We are descendants of endurance runners who survived not through brute force, but through perseverance. Even today, the human body remembers that strategy, not by domination, but by staying the course. In the world of mammals, nearly all large species are covered in thick fur. Lions, wolves, bears. Fur provides protection from cold, heat, insect bites, scratches, and UV rays. But humans are an exception. Homo sapiens became almost entirely hairless. Why did our species give up such important protection? One leading theory is thermoregulation. As early humans began running long distances under the blazing sun, fur became a disadvantage. Sweating under fur leads to overheating. Sweating on bare skin is more efficient. Humans are among the few mammals that sweat across the entire body. This gave us a major edge. We could keep moving without overheating, while most animals needed to rest. Other theories exist. Fur is a home for parasites. Fleas, lice, and ticks thrive in dense hair. Losing fur may have helped humans reduce infections and disease, especially when living in close social groups. There's also the aquatic ape hypothesis, which suggests our ancestors spent a lot of time in water and lost fur as an adaptation. But this idea is controversial and lacks strong evidence. A more compelling idea is that bare skin enhanced social and sexual communication. It made it easier to see physical signals: blushing, sweating, wounds, sexual arousal. This improved communication and mate selection. In the end, humans became the naked primate, but not entirely. We retained scalp hair to protect against sunburn and overheating. Hair in the armpits and groin also serves a function. It traps scent, acting as a social signal. Humanity didn't just lose fur, it turned skin into a communication tool. If you gather people from across the world, one feature stands out immediately. Skin color varies widely, from nearly black to pale pink, with yellowish, olive, or reddish hues. But our ancestors didn't always look this way. The earliest members of the Homo genus, including early Homo sapiens, had dark skin. Lighter skin is a relatively recent adaptation, and it didn't happen by accident. The key factor is sunlight. The closer to the equator, the more ultraviolet radiation there is. Melanin, the pigment responsible for skin color, protects against UV damage. Dark skin acts like a natural shield. It prevents UV rays from damaging DNA and reduces the risk of skin cancer. This is especially important in hot climates where much of the body is exposed. But there's a trade-off. To synthesize vitamin D, the body needs UV light. In northern latitudes with less sun, dark skin becomes a disadvantage. It blocks too much UV. A lack of vitamin D can lead to weak bones, rickets, and a compromised immune system. So in regions with low sunlight, natural selection began to favor lighter skin. Light skin is a compromise. It offers less protection from the sun, but increases the chance of survival in northern regions. That's why people from Europe, Siberia, and parts of Asia tend to have lighter complexions. Interestingly, the genetic changes that led to lighter skin appeared independently in different populations. Multiple paths to the same solution. Modern humans carry the legacy of these adaptations. Skin color isn't about race. It's about how our ancestors adapted to different environments, like nose shape, height, or skeletal structure. It's part of our species' incredible flexibility. The diversity of skin color isn't a division, it's proof of our evolutionary success. Eyes aren't just organs of sight, they're personal signatures. The color of the iris might seem trivial, but it carries a deep story of migrations, mutations, and adaptations. The first Homo sapiens in Africa all had brown eyes. Blue and green eyes are the result of mutations that occurred after humans left Africa. The most famous mutation linked to blue eyes appeared around 6,000 to 10,000 years ago near the Black Sea. Scientists believe a single person developed a change in the OCA2 gene that reduced melanin production in the iris. The result was pale blue eyes. That mutation has been passed down ever since and is especially common in European populations. Green eyes are another variation. They don't trace back to a single mutation. Instead, they result from a mix of moderate melanin levels and light scattering properties. Green is among the rarest eye colors and is most often seen in people from the Caucasus and Eastern Europe. Gray eyes are another offshoot on the same genetic foundation. But why did light-colored eyes persist? There are several theories. First, lighter eyes may allow more light to pass through, an advantage in regions with less sunlight. Second, sexual selection may play a role. Unusual eye colors could have seemed more attractive and thus been favored in mate choice. Today, eye color is shaped by a complex interplay of genes. More than 10 different regions of DNA contribute to the final shade. It's not just one trait, it's a genetic orchestra. And while eye color now mostly carries aesthetic significance, it still tells a story of our species' journey from the equator to the cloud-covered north. When the mutation in the OCA2 gene first appeared in a single person on the shores of the Black Sea, it was nothing more than a glitch in a biological mechanism, a random disruption of pigmentation. But that single point in the DNA, which initially only changed the color of the eyes, eventually reshaped how humans perceive one another, altering image, status, and symbolism. In the age of hunters and gatherers, unusual traits could do more than attract attention. They could suggest a sense of distinct origin. In small groups where everyone knew each other, rarity stood out immediately, and blue eyes, as a rare visual marker, began to function not just as a feature, but as a signal. I'm different. In a world where being noticed mattered, this became an advantage. With the development of agriculture and the shift to more stable societies, appearance took on new significance. People began to notice and remember physical features, linking them to clans, regions, and ancestry. Blue eyes were drawn into this process of cultural interpretation. In Europe, they became associated with purity of blood, northern nature, and certain ethnic identities. In antiquity, they might have been seen as a sign of spiritual depth. In the Middle Ages, as a mark of witches or sorcerers, and in the 20th century, as a mass media construct and visual ideal in cinema. What began as a minor error in pigmentation evolved into a core element of ethnic myths and ideological narratives. And while, genetically, blue eyes are simply the result of suppressed OCA2 activity, socially they became a symbol of beauty, uniqueness, coldness, or intelligence, depending on the era and context. All blue-eyed people on Earth today truly inherited the same mutation, but along with it came the entire cultural weight humanity has layered onto this trait for thousands of years. Biology became the foundation for stereotypes, preferences, and even discrimination. Eye color isn't just a reflection of light through the iris. It's the biography of a single organism, printed on the faces of millions. It's a coincidence that inspired stories, personal associations, and ideological manipulation. A minor mutation that triggered a cultural chain reaction. And perhaps, right now, it's looking back at you from the mirror. Blue eyes are neither a gift nor a choice. They are a random mutation that changed not just human appearance, but how we see each other. One glitch in DNA became a symbol, a statement, a legacy, and it lives on in millions of faces.